Hello everybody, so today we're going to be solving literal equations and formulas presented by me, Mrs. Fingers. So our objective for today, the student will be able to solve literal equations which are the same as formulas for a specified variable. So literal equations work the same way as all the other equations we've done. The only difference? There are many different variables. Solving a literal equation is simply solving a formula for a given variable. So solving literal equations seem to be another way of saying taking an equation with lots of letters and solving it for one letter in particular. You can rewrite a literal equation to isolate any one of the variables using inverse operations. This is called solving for a variable, and soon enough I will show you the steps to follow. But when you rewrite literal equations, you may have to divide by a variable or variable expression. In this lesson, I want you to assume that the variable or variable expression is not equal to 0. Division by 0 is not defined. Formula is an equation that states a rule for a relationship among quantities. And the formula is a type of literal equation. So in the formula, d equals RT, distance equals rate times time. D is isolated. You can rearrange a formula to isolate any variable by using inverse operations. Remember our inverse operations. Inverse of addition is subtraction. Inverse operation of multiplication is division, and vice versa. So let's take a look at the steps. Step 1, locate the variable you asked to solve for in the equation and highlight it. Step 2, identify the operations on this variable and the order in which they're applied. Step 3, use inverse operations to undo operations and isolate the variable. That's how we're going to use our do-undo chart. So what do you think the first step here is? You have to solve 2x minus 4y equals 7 for x. To get x by itself, what is the first step? So x is right here, and you would want to highlight it. So you cannot get rid of 2 right away, but you could get rid of negative 4y as if it was just subtraction. So the inverse operation of subtracting 4y will be adding 4y. Excellent. And that's our first step. Remember, we want to isolate everything with x, so I'm going to leave x wherever that is, and everything that doesn't have x has to go. So let's take a look at this. So to solve for x, I'm going to use a do-undo chart to help determine the steps, as we did before. We're going to ask ourselves, what is the first thing we're doing to x? And you know, the first thing is multiplying by 2. It's right here. What is the second thing? It's subtracting 4y, and here it is. So we're going to write undo chart backwards by doing the inverse operation. So if here we had subtracting 4y, in the undo chart we have to put plus 4y, right? And then to undo multiplying by 2, we have to put dividing by 2. And then we're going to follow the steps in undo column to isolate the variable. So let's take a look at it. Here's our do-undo chart. So I'm going to draw the river, and in my undo chart, first thing, I have to add 4y to both sides. Because I cannot really add 7 and 4y, they're not like terms, I'm going to write it as 7 plus 4y, and that's it. Then the next step in my undo chart is dividing by 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And 2's cancel right here. So our x is isolated. But because I cannot divide everything by 2, 7 is not divisible by 2, I'm going to leave it alone. If 7 was divisible by 2, then we could have divided both of them. But because 7 is not, we're going to leave it alone. So let's take a look at the same equation, but now I want to solve for y. So I want to isolate y. So which term has to go? And you think it is 2x because it doesn't have y. So what is your first step? And you are correct. Subtract 2x from both sides. So here's my do-undo chart. What was done to y? Remember, we're solving for y. Y was multiplied by -4. And then 2x was added to the same side. Now, to undo, we have to do it backwards. So if we had addition of 2x, so in undo chart, first thing I'm going to put is subtract 2x. And then if I have multiplying by -4, in undo chart, I'm going to put dividing by -4. And now I'm ready to draw the river and follow the steps. So first I would subtract 2x from both sides. And then I would simplify. And because I cannot really subtract 7 and 2x because they're not like terms, I'm going to leave that alone. Next step is to divide both sides by -4. So if I do so, -4 cancels right here. So we're gonna have y alone. But because we cannot simplify further, 7 we cannot divide by -4, nor -2 we can divide by -4. So then this will be my answer. And let's take a look at number 3. I want to solve this for y, so I want to leave y alone. And remember our do-undo chart and everything. What do we have to do first? We are going to... You are correct. Multiply both sides by 3 because we don't like fractions, so we want to get rid of that denominator. And let's take a look at the steps. Again, we're going to put in our do-undo chart. It was adding a, then dividing by 3. So to undo, I have to multiply by 3 first and then take away a. So here it is, the river, and we're going to follow the steps. So let's stay tuned. We clear the fraction. Multiply both sides by 3. 3's cancel. Then we would simplify and we end up with y plus a in the numerator. And then on the other side we have 3c. Then I would have to subtract a from both sides. So once I subtracted a, guess what's left? Y equals. Y is isolated. And y equals 3c minus a. Let's solve that one for y. Take a minute. And you should get 2x minus 6. Over here, you could simplify further because the numbers will be divisible by whatever you wanted to divide by. And let's take a look at this one. Following our do-undo chart, first thing was to locate y and highlight it. Here it is. Then it was multiplied by -2. Then 4x was added. So to undo, I take away 4x and divide by -2. Draw the river. Then I would subtract 4x from both sides, as it says in my undo chart. And when I simplify, I could get 12 minus 4x. Next step is to divide by -2 on both sides. And guess what happens? I could divide each term by -2. It does simplify. 12 divided by -2 is -6. And -4x divided by -2 is positive 2x. And if I would want to have a positive number starting first, so I can just rearrange the terms and get that answer, 2x minus 6. Now, this is for you to try. The formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is volume equals length times width times height. Which equation solves the formula for L? And that is equation number 4. Let's take a look at the next one. The formula for the volume of a pyramid is volume equals 1/3 base times height. Which equation solves the formula for H? Remember to clear the fractions first. And you are correct. Here it is, the correct equation. With this, I want to end my presentation, and I want you to complete the next assignment.